What's up everybody, it's Parker with BI Elite. I have an awesome video today showing you how to count the number of business days in a certain time period. What this trick is actually going to show you is how to mark a certain date as either a business day or not a business day. This trick is so awesome because it's going to work no matter which country you're in. For example, I'm in the US, so we celebrate a certain set of holidays. We're going to take that into account here, but if you're in a country, let's say Australia, and you celebrate different holidays, we're also going to know which holidays you celebrate and calculate that into the business days. So as a quick demo, I can change my date selection here to calculate the number of business days between a certain period, but what's actually happening is on the back end, on our date table, we can see that we are marking each date as a business day, 1 or 0. So we see Saturday and Sundays are marked as zeros. We also see that December 25th is marked as a 0 because using the US as my country, we have that off as a holiday. This trick is using an API. It's called the Working Days API. And just to be upfront, this is a paid API. It's actually €4 per month. But the good thing is I'm going to show you how you can just query this one time for many dates that go out into the future. And for that reason, you won't need to keep a recurring monthly subscription. You can just use this for a single month, get the data you need, and reference it in the future whenever you need it. And before I forget, if you are looking to download this file as a sample, make sure you check out the description. The location of the file will be posted down there. And with that, let's go ahead and dive into how we can set this up. So we are going to look at my Power Query editor. We see that I have a date table here, and I've already gone through the steps to mark each date as a business day or not a business day. Quick shout out to Matt Allington, who provided the code for this date table up to my business day point. So up to this point, this is an awesome date table that I use all the time. So let's go ahead and get started with a sample query of that Working Days API. The Working Days API can be found at this address here, and this is just all the information that you need to know in order to query that API. Just to give you the key points here, I'm going to go ahead and grab their sample query. It's everything here. And let's go ahead and throw this into a new web source, a new web query. Let's paste that in. The only thing that I want to change here is instead of this section with key equals my personal key, I'm just getting rid of that because they allow you to test this out for free if you're just using any date between January 1st, 2013 and the end of 2013. You can actually see that in our sample call, we are only calling data for 2013 and it's going to work without a key. One thing right off the bat that you'll notice, country code equals CA for Canada. So we're actually querying the working days for Canada. We can change that to US or India or Australia, Brazil. We can change that depending on which country that you are actually in. But for the result set, we can go ahead and take a look at what it's returned. I'm actually going to go back to the API documentation and look at this expanded result set. So we see that in result, we can see the total number of days split up by weekday, the total number of working days split up by weekday. It even shows us the holidays within that time period. That's awesome. So that depending on which location you're in, it's going to show you the holidays that you celebrate. So that is really, really cool. Let's go back to Power BI. And I'm just going to go through a couple of steps here. If we expand or drill into this record, we can see those 4 subsets of data. We really care about the working days subset, and this total is what we really care about. So we can even drill down into that, get the total number of working days in the period. But as you can see, since we called the API for every date in 2013, we're getting 365 days of data back. We actually want to call this for a single date to mark that single date as either a business day or not a business day. So if we were to call this for, let's just say 2013 01-05, let's do that. Let's change this start date to 05. So we're only querying for one date, January 5th, 2013. End date January 5th, 2013. Let's go ahead and click OK. And in our last navigation step, we see that that date was not a working day. Let's change this to the 7th. And let's go ahead and go back to our navigation step. We see that that date was a working day. So it's either going to be a 0 or a 1, depending on if it's a business day or not a business day. So let's go ahead and go on over to my actual function that I'm calling here. And I'm going to go ahead and open up this advanced editor. So I'm going to go ahead and blur out my key because that is sensitive to me. So this is the final function that I'm going to use in order to call this for a single day of data. I'm going to call it multiple times. So the URL is the exact same, except I have this key equals in here. That's going to allow me to call this API for dates that are in every other year other than 2013. So in order to get this key for you, you just need to sign up on the Working Days API website for that €4 per month, and you'll get this API key, which will start working instantly. And then we can also change this country code. I'm going to change this to India, for example, just moving forward. And we can see that I have changed this up just a little bit. So in my first step, URL, I am, instead of just hard coding that start and end date, I'm using this date param. I'm just concatenating this date param in here. And this date param is a parameter from this function that I've set up. Date param as text hash rocket. So that's going to turn this query into a function, which we can then reference in our URL call or our API call. Every other step is the exact same. We're just calling that URL, and then we're drilling down to the working days total, which we did in that other query. So once we have that done, once we have that function ready, we can go back to our date table and we can actually call this function. So I'm going to go ahead and actually get rid of my function call, and we can work through this individually. So let's add a column here, invoke custom function. And I am going to call this column business day ? And this function query is going to use my API function. And I want to specify a column, and let's specify our date column. Let's go ahead and click OK. And we're going to get an error here. If we look at the error, it's going to say, hey, the date that you're trying to use this on is a date, but in our function, you are looking for a text. And that makes sense because the URL needs to be in text format. So we need to translate this date into a text string in a certain format. That's easy to do. If we go back to our function call, in this API call, I want to call a certain function, date.toText. And I want to open that parenthesis, throw in that date column, and I want to give it a specific format, lowercase yyy dash capital mm dash dd. That's going to put it in a specific format for us that's going to work with that API. And now once it's in that format, we can click the check mark, and we see that we're working as expected business day. We have zeros and ones. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to just disable the load here for our Scratch query. And as you can see, based on my table here, we're looking at dates from the beginning of 2018 through the end of 2021. That works. And just as a reminder, we're looking at the country code of India. So let's go ahead and close and apply. And I will go ahead and let that load for just a little bit, and I'll catch you back here once it's done loading. And looks like we're done. We see that these are now the business days from 2018 through 2020 for the country code of India. And just remember, you can change that to whichever country code that you need to use it for. So at this point, I can actually call this API for, let's say, the next 10 years in the future, and then I can just save that Power BI model and reference that query whenever I want. I'll probably save that query locally, maybe into an Excel file or something like that, so that I don't have to keep calling this API months in the future. I just need to call it one time. If you want to take this even further, you can also get the name of the holiday for that specific date. That would be a fun exercise as well, and that API does return that information. So I hope you like this trick. This is an awesome one that's going to allow you to calculate the business days between a period. I know personally I'll be using this all the time. If you did like the video, make sure you check out my training over at training.bielite.com. We have some awesome videos on Power BI, DAX, and Alteryx. We also have a DA100 course to help you study for that DA100 Power BI certification exam. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.